Right now, over at the Bank of Montreal, there's an AI handling 4 hours of deep investigative work in exactly 3 minutes.
And just to be clear, we are not talking about a basic chatbot here. True agentic AI has officially crossed the chasm. We're moving away from that flashy, demo-level hype, and we're entering the rigorous reality of enterprise production. Welcome to this explainer.
Seriously, 2026 is not the year AI got smarter, it's the year AI actually got hired. Okay, here's our agenda for this explainer. First, chatbots versus autonomous workers. Then, real enterprise deployments, followed by the engineering architecture. After that, we'll hit the deployment bottleneck, the reliability gap, and finally, the 2026 outlook. Let's just jump right in.
Section 1, Chatbots versus Autonomous Workers, the Paradigm Shift. So, Marcus, cut through the jargon for us right off the bat. What is the definitive difference between a standard AI assistant and an actual agent?
It really all comes down to goals and context. Chatbots, they're reactive. You ask it for a restaurant, it lists some restaurants, and boom, the transaction is over. Agents, on the other hand, are entirely goal-driven, and they have persistent context. So, you tell an agent to, say, plan a client dinner, and it goes off, checks calendars, books the venue, sends out the invites, and even logs the expense totally autonomously. It's just a completely different species of tech, really based on this idea of bounded autonomy.
Right, so there's no human in the loop required for every single click.
Exactly.
Section 2, Real Enterprise Deployments, Proof of Work.
Okay, Marcus, the theory sounds amazing, but does this actually work in highly regulated spaces right now? Oh, it absolutely does. Look at Anthropic's new financial agents. Take their pitch builder, for example. It compresses days of formatting pitch books into literally just hours. Or look at the KYC Screener, which is completely changing banking compliance by autonomously assembling entity files. The Claude Opus 4.7 model powering these things is hitting a 64.37% on the Vols AI finance benchmark.
Wow.
Which means the fundamental shift here is that humans are moving from doing the actual work to simply verifying the work. And I absolutely love the Microsoft 365 workflow because it highlights this mind-blowing concept of ambient context persistence. So if you update a discount rate in Excel, the agent autonomously updates your PowerPoint narrative, edits your Word summary, and drafts a Teams message to your director explaining the change.
It's incredible, isn't it? It is literally the jump from a typewriter to a word processor.
And the scale of this is already massive, 200,000. That's the number of customer devices currently being managed by agents inside the Kyndryl Bridge platform. These agents are out there doing predictive, zero-downtime IT remediation before a human ever even notices a server issue.
Wow. So that old school IT job of just, restarting a server, that's basically vanishing?
Vanishing right before our eyes. Section 3, the engineering architecture. Under the hood. Yeah, let's talk about why the underlying architecture from all those flashy Twitter demos is fundamentally flawed for actual business use. Remember Google's highly publicized Project Mariner? It used browser automation, essentially taking screenshots and visually clicking buttons. But Google killed the standalone Mariner project. Why? Because visual browser scraping fails catastrophically in production. Instead, they pivoted to Gemini Agent using direct API integration, which is completely bulletproof and mature.
Right, because visual scraping means the AI is actually looking at the screen, which breaks the second a website button moves a few pixels.
Exactly. Real enterprise agents skip the browser altogether and wire directly into the data.
And making all that seamless API connection possible is something called MCP, or Model Context Protocol. It is a universal standard.
So it's basically the USB-C of AI.
That is exactly what it is. Tools like Firecrawl and Notion are using the MCP right now to create plug-and-play autonomous employees. They can access data across totally different services without needing, 100,000 lines of custom integration code.
Wait, hold on. If every agent can just seamlessly talk to every service, isn't that a massive security nightmare?
Oh, it expands the attack surface exponentially. Your standard perimeter security, completely dead. A Microsoft executive recently pointed out that security must now be ambient, autonomous, and built-in, meaning it literally travels dynamically with the agent itself. That's exactly why specialized tools like Operant AI's Endpoint Protector and Sysdig's real-time monitoring are stepping in specifically to govern these autonomous workers.
Section 4, the deployment bottleneck. The human cost. Let's look at the hidden human cost that is currently totally stunting these massive enterprise rollouts.
The primary bottleneck here is actually not compute power anymore. It's human integration talent. Specifically, we're talking about the forward deployed engineer, or FDE. When big banks deploy these agents, they heavily rely on these highly specialized, incredibly expensive vendor engineers sitting right in their offices, constantly tuning the systems.
Which kind of sounds like a trap. If your company relies entirely on FDEs, you aren't actually building an internal capability. You're basically just renting your workforce from the AI vendor, which leads to massive vendor lock-in.
And the tech giants know this. Just look at Meta dropping a massive $500 million valuation to acquire Manus AI directly into their ecosystem.
Right, because owning the orchestration layer, this central system that actually manages all these disparate autonomous workers, that is the new operating system war.
Section 5, the reliability gap, the 80% disaster. This right here is why those viral demo metrics are deeply, deeply dangerous for corporate executives to trust.
Look, if an AI agent succeeds 80% of the time in a demo, people applaud. It's impressive. But in a production environment, like algorithmic trading or accounts payable, an 80% success rate is an absolute catastrophe.
Yeah, right, because a 20% failure rate means you're wiring the wrong money or misfiling federal regulations. Horizontal, do-everything agents, those are strictly for demos. Hyper-specialized vertical agents are what you need for production.
To actually get to that 99% reliability, IT operations use 5 strict production guardrails. They build explicit escalation paths to humans, maintain full reviewable audit trails, use behavioral anomaly detection, restrict everything in sandboxing environments, and my personal favorite, Guardian Verifier agents.
Wait, so we literally have AI agents acting as middle managers for other AI agents?
Exactly. Unsupervised work goes wrong, even for AI. So the agents now have AI managers checking their work.
And underpinning all of those guardrails is observability. Tools like Langsmith or Datadog's agent product are absolute day-one requirements. Because without them, an autonomous agent that gets stuck in a loop could burn $1 million in compute tokens over a single weekend before you even realize what's happening.
Or, even worse, it could hallucinate and pass bad data to a second agent, creating this beautifully formatted, massive cascade of errors.
Finally, Section 6, Agentic AI 2026 Outlook, the labor reality. Let's look ahead at the frankly brutal labor reality coming down the pipe in the next 18 months. On the technical side, we're about to see multi-agent orchestration become the default. Hardware-native agent integration will definitely expand. Agent identity registries will become standard practice, and the massive hurdle of long-horizon, multi-week planning will finally be solved.
Which directly leads us to that final point, massive labor market friction and repricing.
And enterprises are completely unprepared for it. A recent Deloitte survey found that while 74% of enterprises expect to use agentic AI extensively by 2027, only 21% actually have mature governance in place.
Leaving a staggering 79% of companies totally exposed. The next 18 months are going to ruthlessly sort the organizations that have figured out AI governance from those that just haven't.
And for the workers themselves, it is a complicated dual reality. An NBR study found that applicants assessed by AI voice agents were actually 12% more likely to get job offers simply because the agents conducted statistically consistent interviews and stripped out latent human bias.
But you have to contrast that optimism with the rather grim reality at companies like TELUS right now. Their human call center workers are being mandated to use AI copilots. They are quite literally being forced to manually correct and train the autonomous agents that are actively being built to replace them.
So as we wrap up this explainer, we want to challenge you. What is the one specific workflow you would actually trust a bounded autonomous agent to handle for you today?
And perhaps more importantly, are you prepared for when it takes over the rest?
Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. We'll catch you next time.